Since childhood, my mother taught me to learn how to pick up what others left behind, and I was the result of her picking up what my legitimate mother was unwilling to bear after serving in bed at the palace banquet. My elder legitimate sister got into a quarrel with the young general and, in a fit of anger, yanked off his pouch. Out fell a tiny portrait of my legitimate sister from inside. The young general took the opportunity to kneel. "Your Majesty, I have long admired the eldest young lady of the Liu family. I beg you to bestow a marriage." Fearing she would be accused of secretly exchanging gifts with him, my legitimate sister hurriedly defended herself. "Your Majesty, please see clearly. This portrait is absolutely not of your subject's daughter. It is of my younger half-sister, who bears a six-part resemblance to me," the young general said in a huff. It was this subject who spoke recklessly after drinking. The one this subject truly admires is the second young lady of the Liu family. I immediately knelt beside the two of them. With this heaven-sent fortune falling into my lap, I had to kneel to receive it. A blush rose just right on my fair cheeks, and my voice carried a hint of shyness. "Your Majesty, the miniature portrait in General Liu's pouch was indeed given by this minister's daughter." The entire imperial banquet fell silent at once. All eyes were fixed, blazing hotly, on the three of us kneeling before the hall. The emperor looked at the miniature portrait, his gaze sharp and appraising. "Daughter of the Liu family, deceiving the emperor is a capital offense punishable by the extermination of your entire clan. Think carefully before you answer." My legitimate elder sister, undeterred by the emperor's dignity, insisted that the person in the miniature portrait was me. "Your Majesty, please discern the truth. It must be my younger half-sister, shamelessly engaging in secret exchanges with General Liu. My parents and I will certainly discipline her strictly." The emperor's gaze fell heavily on me. "The concubine-born daughter of the Liu family, this portrait, is it really you?" My mother's words echoed like a thunderclap in my ears. Opportunities vanish in an instant. I must act decisively and seize it. Young General Liu and my legitimate elder sister have already trampled my reputation into the mud. Why shouldn't I turn the mistake to my advantage and seize this high branch? I took a deep breath, the flush on my face deepening, as though I was so embarrassed I had nowhere to hide. "Your Majesty, please hear me out. This subject's daughter admires the young general. When she gave him the miniature portrait, she also tucked a strand of her hair inside it. I knew this so clearly because that day, I personally saw how my legitimate elder sister carefully stuffed the miniature portrait wrapped with a strand of hair into young General Liu's hand. Mother was right. If you want to pick up leftovers, you have to keep your eyes on other people's movements at all times." As expected, the emperor pinched out that strand of hair from the sachet and examined it. He nodded slightly. The hair is still there. It seems the person in this miniature portrait is indeed you." "Without a doubt. In that case, I shall fulfill you two lovers." As soon as my elder legitimate sister heard that the emperor was really going to bestow a marriage between me and young General Liu, she immediately panicked. She looked at Liu Chenju in alarm, and pleading filled her eyes. Liu Chenju loved my elder legitimate sister. He indulged her little temperamental habits greatly, even finding them enjoyable. At that moment, seeing her eyes red with anxiety, his heart was instantly flooded with pity, but he did not dare ask the emperor to retract the decree. The marriage was something he had asked for himself. Now that he had gotten what he wished for, if he were to go back on it in public, even if his aunt was the empress, the crime of deceiving the emperor would be enough to land him in deep trouble. He could only place his last sliver of hope on me, praying that I would understand the look in his eyes and risk defying the imperial order to refuse. I, however, seemed completely oblivious and prostrated myself on the ground, loudly proclaiming, "This daughter of your Majesty thanks your Majesty for your gracious favor." Those words utterly nailed shut this imperial marriage arrangement. Liu Chenju's pupils shrank sharply. In the end, he could only stiffly follow suit and kowtow, his voice hoarse. "Your subject thanks your Majesty for your great grace." The empress, watching the scene, kept a proper smile on her face as she stepped forward to smooth things over. "Your Majesty, although Chenju and Miss Liu II are in love, Miss Liu is still a concubine-born daughter. If she were made the legitimate wife, it might stir criticism. Would it not be better to take her first as a noble concubine, the Empress's attempt to interfere was exactly as I expected. The general's manor is her maternal family, and as for Liu Chunzhou's position as legal wife, she would naturally want to reserve it for a legitimate daughter from an eminent family. The emperor looked at the empress with a smile that was not quite a smile. Empress, today it was Chenzhou himself who personally asked for this marriage grant. Since he doesn't care about Miss Liu II's background, why not you, as his aunt, help make her happy? Union. The smile on the empress's face stiffened slightly. It is I, who did not consider it thoroughly. The emperor waved his hand and, in a fit of generosity, decided to play matchmaker to the end. The 8th day of next month is an auspicious day. You two shall be married then. Liu Chenzhou and I kowtowed again to thank him for his grace. Upon returning to the Liu residence, I did not even have time to drink a sip of water before hurrying straight to my grandmother to confess my fault. Just as I finished telling her what had happened at the palace banquet, my legitimate mother came storming in with my sobbing legitimate elder sister in tow, full of aggression. Mother, you must stand up for Ruowei. My legitimate elder sister fell to her knees at grandmother's feet, tears streaming down her face. Grandmother, young General Liu was originally the man I admired, but he was snatched away by my half-sister, too. I cried even more heartbreakingly than my legitimate elder sister. Grandmother, I have been wronged. I thought my legitimate elder sister pushed me out to take the blame because she had grown tired of young General Liu, which is why I boldly admitted to that little portrait. My legitimate elder sister pointed at my nose and cursed angrily. Liu Ruolan, you wretch. Stop pretending to be innocent here. Chenzhou Ji and I meet in private all the time. How could you possibly not know? I looked at her through tear-filled eyes, my face full of grievance. Elder sister, since you and young General Liu are in love with each other, why didn't you admit it when he asked for a marriage alliance in the imperial court? Why did you insist that the small portrait was mine? Of course it was for my reputation, elder sister blurted out, then realized she had misspoken and glared at me fiercely. Grandmother slapped the table hard and barked, enough. All of you, shut up. What happened today cannot be blamed on your younger sister. It was you who had no sense of propriety, daring to flirt with the young general before his majesty, and causing such a disaster. You have brought this upon yourself. From this moment on, no one is to mention the portrait again, or else what will fall is the heads of our entire clan. The grandmother looked at the legitimate mother, Madame Wang. Madame Wang, although Lan is a concubine-born daughter, this is an imperial marriage decree, and she is to marry young General Liu as his principal wife. Her dowry must be prepared according to the standards of a legitimate daughter, in a grand and splendid manner, with not the slightest hint of negligence. Madame Wang's face turned livid, and she could only grit her teeth and reply, yes, mother. The legitimate elder sister finally lost her composure completely and shrieked, Grandmother, you're just being biased. Since ancient times, there has been a distinction between legitimate and concubine-born children. Why should Liu Rulan, a lowly concubine-born daughter, be on equal footing with me? The grandmother's expression changed drastically. Outrageous. You keep calling people slut and low-born concubine at every turn. Is this the upbringing of the legitimate daughter of my minister's residence? Lady Wang, how have you been a mother? Suppressing her anger, she said, whether born of the principal wife or a concubine, they are all flesh and blood of the Liu family. Have you forgotten even the saying that all share in glory and all suffer in ruin? What you've ruined today is not only your younger sister's reputation, but the reputation of every daughter in the entire Liu family. For the sake of your own selfish motives, you would drag the whole clan down with you. Truly wicked and stupid. Seeing that the grandmother was furious, the stepmother hurriedly tugged at the elder sister's sleeve. Ruowei, quickly apologize to your grandmother. The legitimate elder sister flung off the legitimate mother's hand, staggered to her feet, and looked at her with eyes full of venomous resentment. I did nothing wrong. None of you will help me, so I'll find a way myself. The legitimate elder sister ran too quickly and nearly collided head-on with her father, Liu Chongshan, who had hurried over when the grandmother saw their father. Her anger only burned hotter. Liu Chongshan, look at the good daughter you've raised. Send someone to keep her under strict watch at once. If she causes even the slightest more trouble, not only will your official hat be gone, but your head may be too." Father was startled and hurriedly replied, "Please calm down, Mother, I'll take care of it right away." I quickly stepped forward and offered Grandmother a cup of warm tea. "Grandmother, please calm down, you must take good care of your health." Grandmother's expression softened a little, and she patted my hand affectionately. "Good child. You're still the most sensible one. My legitimate elder sister was right. Grandmother did indeed favor me a little more from childhood to now." My legitimate elder sister found keeping Grandma company tedious, so this chance to fulfill filial duty on behalf of the legitimate granddaughter had been firmly snatched up by me. Seeing this warm scene, my concubine mother gently spoke at the right moment. "Old madam, the second miss is about to marry soon. Why not let her move into your courtyard for a while? That way, she can also show more filial devotion to you." I instantly understood my concubine mother's meaning. She was worried that the madam and my legitimate elder sister might become desperate and strike at me in the dark. The imperial marriage decree could not be annulled, but if the bride were to accidentally die, then of course this marriage would be called off. I looked at my young mother's calm face, and my eyes grew slightly warm. She had once been the lowliest fire-tending maid in the household, yet possessed wisdom that many could hardly hope to match. From the moment I was born, she had been making plans for me. She knew full well that raising me herself would win more pity from my father, yet she would rather endure the pain than not fight for me a chance to be registered under the main wife's name and have the status of a legitimate daughter. Regrettably, she was despised and refused by the main wife. She knew her own learning and outlook were limited, so she would often hold me, still young, and bring me to make an appearance before Grandmother, in hopes of winning me some favor. Grandmother nodded in delight. "Good, pack up today and move over here." After moving into Grandmother's courtyard, I kept her company every day, chatting to cheer her up and doing some embroidery that day. I had just finished embroidering a purse with a twin lotus design. My personal maid, Xiaohe, hurried in and reported in a low voice, "Miss, young General Lu has sent word through someone, asking to meet you at the Zuexiang Tower at 1:15. I knew that what had to come would come, and there was no escaping it. After changing into a pink and white gauze skirt, pinning a fully bloomed early cherry blossom at my temple, and taking the newly embroidered sachet with me, I boarded the carriage bound for Zuexiang Tower. In the private room by the window on the second floor, Lu Chenju was already seated when he saw me enter. A flicker of surprise he could not quite conceal flashed through his eyes. My legitimate elder sister and I were only about 60% alike in appearance, but our temperaments were entirely different. She was a searing blaze, bold and dazzling. I, by contrast, was like the gentle waters of spring, calm and soft. He suppressed the amazement in his eyes and got straight to the point. "Second Miss Liu, I asked to meet you today because I wanted to make things clear. That day in the main hall, the person I had wanted to marry from beginning to end was your elder sister. She was only throwing a tantrum with me that day, which is why she refused to acknowledge the miniature portrait. Now that we've made up, the position of young madam of the general's residence will only be hers." Seeing that I listened quietly, neither crying nor making a scene, a trace of guilt and reluctance flashed quickly in his eyes, but he still said cruelly, "I hope you can take the initiative to enter the palace and ask His Majesty to annul the engagement, but rest assured, the Empress and the Liu family will ensure your safety." My eyes instantly turned red, but I forced myself to squeeze out a pale smile. "All right, I agree," under his slightly stunned gaze. I said softly, "However, I have one request." Lu Chenju clearly hadn't expected me to be so sensible, and immediately agreed, "Go ahead. As long as I can do it." My gaze fell on a silver hairpin for women that he was unconsciously rubbing with his fingers. "This one, can you give it to me?" He froze slightly, then subconsciously handed the hairpin over. "I made this myself. I had wanted to cheer your sister up, but she thought it was too crude and said I wasn't thoughtful enough." I tilted my head slightly and leaned a little closer, my voice soft and gentle. "Young General Lu, what matters most is the sentiment behind it. What my sister cast aside like rubbish is what I have longed for in my dreams. I looked up, carrying a hint of timid anticipation. Could you put it on me? Oh, okay. He seemed a little flustered, and with clumsy yet careful movements, he tucked that hairpin into my cloud-like hair. I smiled shyly and slipped the exquisitely embroidered twin lotus sachet into his arms. This is a return gift. Before he could react, I had already gathered up my skirts, turned, and hurried away. Just as I stepped into the back courtyard of the Liu residence, I was stopped by my legitimate elder sister, Liu Ruolan. Brother Chen Ju has made everything clear to you, hasn't he? She lifted her chin, her smugness almost spilling from the corners of her brows. So what if you schemed your way into a royal marriage decree? As long as I crook my finger, he'll still be willing to defy the emperor's will for my sake. I raised my hand and gently stroked the rough silver hairpin in my hair, letting out a soft sigh. Sister, I truly envy you for having won young General Lu's wholehearted affection. The eldest legitimate sister's gaze suddenly fixed on my hand as I touched the hairpin. She suddenly reached out and brutally yanked the hairpin from my hair. Slut, where did this hairpin come from? Don't break it, sister. I rushed to snatch it back, my voice trembling with tears. Young General Lu just gave it to me a moment ago. You're lying. He carved this for me with his own hands. How could he give it to you? My legitimate older sister flew into a rage and hurled the hairpin hard into the lotus pond beside us. No, I cried out in alarm and, without a second thought, leaped down. The pond water in March was icy to the bone, carrying the fishy stench of rotten lotus leaves. By the time I finally fished out the hairpin, I had fallen ill as well. I was bedridden for half a month, and only when my body had somewhat improved did Lu Chenju send a card and personally come to visit. Leaning against the couch, my face pale as paper, I still held tightly in my hand that silver hairpin, soaked by the pond water and now looking even more plain and rustic. I looked at him with full of apology. Little General Lu, I'm sorry, it's just that my body is too weak. Once I've recovered, I'll immediately enter the palace to petition His Majesty. No need. Lu Chunzhou's gaze swept over my bloodless face, then finally landed on my tightly clenched hairpin and my slightly trembling hand. His Adam's apple bobbed once. His voice was low but clear. There's no need to break off the engagement. I'm willing to marry you. Bang! The door was kicked open with great force, letting out a piercing crash. Lu Chenju, if you're going to marry her, then what am I supposed to do? Liu Ruowei stood in the doorway, her eyes bloodshot. Lu Chenju frowned tightly, his voice laced with exhaustion. Liu Ruowei, stop making a scene. If you hadn't flatly denied it in the Golden Hall that day, how could so much trouble have arisen? He looked at me with guilt. Ruolan has been an innocent victim from beginning to end. We dragged her into this, and I should make it up to her. Liu Ruowei shook her head forcefully in disbelief. No, Brother Chenju, you've changed. In the past, no matter how much I made a scene, you would always indulge me and coax me. She pointed in my direction, her gaze vicious. What is Liu Ruolan anyway? Just an insignificant concubine-born daughter. If she sacrifices a little reputation to fulfill us, that would be her blessing. Enough. Lu Chenju abruptly rose to his feet, staring coldly at her. Liu Ruowei, I always thought you were merely spoiled and prone to throwing little tantrums. Only today do I realize how vicious you truly are. Vicious. Ha ha ha. Fine indeed. Liu Ruowei laughed madly, though her eyes were shattered with despair. Lu Chenju, I will make you regret what you said today. She spun around abruptly and cried as she rushed out. Lu Chenju almost instinctively was about to chase after her, already taking a step forward however, as if he suddenly remembered there was another person in the room. He froze abruptly and looked at me with a trace of helplessness. I immediately said considerately, Brother Lu, hurry and go after your sister. I'm afraid that in her fit of rage, she really might do something foolish. He looked at me gratefully. Ruolan, you're so sensible it breaks my heart. I promise you, once you enter the residence, I will make it up to you twice over. With that, he rushed out without looking back as his footsteps faded away. Mother quietly came in through the side door and gently tucked the blanket around me, her heart aching for me. My daughter, remember what Mother said, a man's guilt is sometimes heavier and more useful than that illusory thing called love. I leaned against her side and nodded vigorously. Mother, I understand. From the moment I acknowledged that little portrait in the great hall, I never dared hope to win Lu Chunzhou's love. What I sought, from beginning to end, was only the position of the young mistress of the general's residence. And everything that title could bring me, no matter how much Liu Ruowei stirred things up. My wedding to Lu Chenzhou was ultimately completed on the night of the wedding. Red candles blazed brightly. I looked shyly and timidly at the handsome man before me. Husband, it's late. We should rest. Under the candlelight, Lu Chenzhou looked even more elegant and captivating. His Adam's apple moved involuntarily, and desire colored his eyes. Just as he was about to lean down and pull me into his arms, Chuanxi, my elder sister's personal maid, suddenly rang out from outside the door in a tearful voice. Lord Lu, please hurry and take a look at my young lady. She hasn't eaten or drunk a thing. She smashed the medicine bowl, and she's even taken up scissors. This servant simply can't stop her. If this goes on, Miss will die. Lu Chenzhou's expression changed drastically. He shoved me away abruptly, grabbed his outer robe, and was about to leave. I caught hold of the cuff of his sleeve and pleaded, Husband, wait. That day in the hall, when I admitted to the portrait, my reputation was already damaged. If, on our wedding night, my husband abandons me again, by tomorrow I will become the laughingstock of the entire capital. How am I supposed to make a living here from now on? Lu Chenzhou's steps came to a halt. He turned back and looked at my tear-streaked face, his eyes full of struggle and guilt. Madam, I'm sorry. I know this is extremely unfair to you, but if your eldest sister-in-law really suffers any mishap, I will never be at peace for the rest of my life. Tears rolled silently down my cheeks. I slowly loosened my grip, and my voice was as light as a sigh. Husband, go, your wife is fine. Seeing me endure and yield in such a way, his heart ached. He pulled me tightly into his arms and promised, Madam, wait for me. I will definitely return as soon as possible. That tall figure disappeared into the thick darkness outside the door. I stood alone beneath the flickering candlelight, utterly clear in my heart. He would not be back tonight. 5 The next morning, I got up alone, washed and dressed myself properly, and forced a composed smile as I went to the main hall to offer tea to my father-in-law and mother-in-law. The fact that the groom had abandoned his bride on their wedding night had clearly already spread throughout the household. My mother-in-law's expression was rather grim. As the properly married daughter-in-law of the Lu family, being sensible is not enough. If you can't even keep your own husband by your side on your wedding night, then what you've lost is not only your own dignity, but the face of our entire general's manor. My heart tightened, but my expression grew even more deferential as I held the teacup in both hands and bowed my head deeply. Mother-in-law's admonition is correct. It is this daughter-in-law's incompetence that has worried mother-in-law and brought shame upon the household. This daughter-in-law knows her mistake. Please calm your anger, mother-in-law. Seeing my submissive, respectful, and apprehensive demeanor, my mother-in-law ultimately sighed, took the tea, and sipped it lightly before waving her hand. Enough, you may withdraw. I bowed respectfully and left the main hall. Once I stepped out of that oppressive space, I straightened my nearly bent spine. I silently told myself that it was all right to suffer a little humiliation now. Everything would get better. After Lu Chenzhou left, there was no news of him for a full 3 days. Before long, the day of the return visit to my parental home arrived. 2 carriages almost simultaneously stopped in front of the imposing gates of the Liu residence. As the carriage curtains were lifted, my legitimate elder sister and I stepped down at almost the same time. She was dressed in a bright, vivid gown, her complexion rosy, her gaze haughty. There was not the slightest sign of someone gravely ill. She walked up to me smugly. Well, my dear sister, how does it feel to be left alone in an empty room? The neighbors, seeing there was a spectacle to watch, immediately gathered around. TSK. So this is the second miss of the Liu family who had an improper relationship with an unrelated man before marriage. Sure enough, a woman who lacks self-respect, even if she uses every trick to climb the social ladder, still won't win her husband's heart. I've heard that young General Liu hasn't even entered the bridal chamber, and he didn't even show up today. Clearly, He's dissatisfied with this marriage." Listening to these harsh remarks, the smugness on Liu Ruowei's face only grew. She leaned close to me and taunted in a voice only the two of us could hear. "Did you hear that? So what if you went to all that trouble to marry him, with just a little trick on my part, he still abandoned you, his new bride, to come looking for me in a hurry? Liu Ruolan, at this point, you're nothing but a complete and utter pitiful wretch." I took a deep breath, ignored the gazes around me, and elegantly raised my hand to gently brush over the exquisite cloud pattern on my sleeve that marked my status as the young madam of the general's residence. "Sister, you're joking. I and Brother Liu were married by the emperor's decree. I am the lawful wife he brought into the household with the full formal betrothal rituals and a grand bridal sedan. This status, this place, no one can take away." Liu Ruowei hadn't expected me to dare to fight back in public. Immediately, she flew into a rage and raised her hand to slap my face hard out of the corner of my eye. I caught sight of the familiar figure racing toward us on horseback at the street corner. I not only didn't dodge, but instead slightly turned my face to meet the slap carrying the force of the wind. Slap. My legitimate elder sister's slap landed heavily on my face. I stumbled and nearly fell, but the man who had leapt down from his horse in time pulled me into his arms. "Liu Ruowei, what kind of madness are you up to again?" Lu Chunzhou's angry shout rang out. Liu Ruowei looked at Lu Chenju, who was tightly shielding me in his arms, and swayed slightly. "You're actually yelling at me for this slut?" My half-swollen cheek burned with pain. Tears instantly welled up in my eyes as I weakly grabbed the front of Lu Chunzhou's robe, my voice choked with sobs. "Husband, what sister said is right. I'm useless and couldn't keep you by my side. If slapping me will make her happy, then let her hit me." Lu Chenju looked down at my swollen face and aggrieved tears, a storm of complex emotions surging in his eyes. He tightened his arms around me even more. "I'm sorry, I made you suffer." His sharp, blade-like gaze swept over the onlookers, carrying the unquestionable authority of the young master of the general's residence. "Listen carefully. Liu Ruolan is my wife, formally wed to me, and personally granted to me by His Majesty. She is the rightful young mistress of the general's residence. Anyone who dares show her even the slightest disrespect or speak insults against her will be making an enemy of me, Lu Chenju, and an enemy of our entire Zhenghua general's residence." The forceful words instantly silenced the noisy entrance. The crowd exchanged glances. Though full of doubt, they were cowed by the authority of the general's residence and all lowered their heads in silence. Liu Ruowei looked at Lu Chunzhou's defense of me, so furious that she wanted nothing more than to tear me apart. "Liu Ruolan, do you think you can beat me just by relying on his pity? We'll see." Watching her elder legitimate sister storm away in anger, Lu Chunzhou's expression darkened, and in the end he did not go after her. The commotion on my return home day unexpectedly brought me and Lu Chenju closer. That night, beneath the warm glow of red candles and curtains, we finally became a true husband and wife. I knew how important it was to have heirs, so I had always taken great care of my body. Perhaps heaven had finally shown me mercy, for a month later, I was diagnosed as pregnant. A smile finally appeared on my mother-in-law's previously stern face. She took off the jade bracelet from her wrist. Lush green all over and of exceptional translucence. And solemnly slipped it onto mine. "Good child, now that you're with child, you must rest and recuperate in peace. This bracelet is a keepsake passed down through the Liu family, handed only to the eldest legitimate daughter-in-law of each generation. From now on, it is yours." I hurriedly thanked her. This daughter-in-law thanks mother for her kindness. News of my pregnancy spread through the capital like the wind, and the rumors that the young General Liu had despised his new bride were shattered without a fight that day. Just after I finished drinking my pregnancy-soothing medicine and before I had time to wipe away the traces of it from the corner of my lips, the sharp, piercing announcement of a eunuch came from outside the courtyard. "Young Madame Liu, by the Empress's imperial decree, you are summoned to enter the palace at once for an audience." 6. I followed the young eunuch leading the way all the way to Fengyi Palace, where the Empress resided. As I stepped into the hall, my heart sank. My stepmother, Madame Wang, and Liu Ruowei were there as well in an instant. I understood. The Empress and Madame Wang had once been close friends in their boudoir, and she had long been displeased with me, the intruder who had wed into the family. Today's summons was clearly meant to back up the mother and daughter and vent their anger on their behalf. The Empress lazily lifted a hand to signal that I be seated. However, what the attendants brought over was a short, crude little stool, almost humiliatingly so. I remained calm, took my seat with composure, and waited for the Empress to make her move. The Empress lifted her phoenix eyes slightly. Liu Ruolan, I've heard that relying on your status as the young mistress of the general's residence, you don't take your birth mother and elder sister seriously, and act with extreme arrogance. She picked up her teacup, her tone turning colder. As the mistress of the 6 palaces and mother of the nation, I can never tolerate such disrespect toward one's elders. To teach you a lesson, go kneel outside the hall. I instinctively protected my abdomen and said earnestly, Your Majesty, may this subject wife be so bold as to speak with you alone for a few words. The stepmother immediately interrupted sharply, Your Majesty, you must never listen to her nonsense. This lowly concubine's daughter is always pretending to be weak, but in truth she is sharp-tongued and the best at bewitching people. Liu Ruowei also tugged at the Empress's sleeve coquettishly. Aunt Empress, if it weren't for her tricks, I would be your niece-in-law right now. You must stand up for me. The Empress was clearly persuaded and waved impatiently, signaling the palace attendants to drag me out. In my desperation, I raised my voice, Your Majesty, please see this clearly. His Majesty is wise beyond compare. On that day in the hall, whose miniature portrait it truly was, how could His Majesty not know? The Empress's pupils suddenly contracted, and she dismissed the attendants on both sides. All of you, leave. Madame Wang and Liu Ruowei looked full of unwillingness, but under the Empress's abruptly sharp aura, they dared not say more and could only leave resentfully. The Empress rose and slowly paced to stand before me, looking down from above. What do you mean by that? I lowered my voice even further, yet each word was clear. Your Majesty, His Majesty does not wish to see the imperial in-laws grow too powerful. Therefore, that miniature portrait can only belong to this subject's wife. After hearing this, the Empress fell silent for a moment, and the sharp light in her eyes was gradually replaced by a complex look of scrutiny. Though you are merely a concubine-born daughter, you were born with a keen mind. Very well, you may return. This humble woman thanks Her Majesty the Empress for her grace. Only after I walked out of that towering palace gate and felt the slightly warm spring breeze brush against my face did the string in my tightly wound heart dare to loosen a little. The inner garment on my back had long been soaked through with cold sweat. After this incident, the Empress did not deliberately make things difficult for me anymore, and life seemed to have truly become peaceful and smooth. Perhaps because of the little life growing in my belly, Lu Chenju became increasingly considerate toward me, and even specially assigned several skilled female guards to protect me around the clock in my courtyard. That day, I was sitting by the window, sewing a pair of small and adorable tiger shoes stitch by stitch, imagining what it would look like when the child wore them. My heart softened completely as I was thinking. Xiaohe rushed in a hurry. Madam, this is bad, something has happened to the young lady. A sharp pain shot through my fingertips, the embroidery needle sank deep into the pad of my finger, and bright red beads of blood instantly welled up, staining the satin in my hands, yet I felt nothing at all. What happened? Xiaohe was so anxious she was in tears. This servant doesn't know the details either. I only know that Madam has locked up the young lady. Prepare the carriage, return to the Liu residence immediately. I lifted my foot to leave at once. Xiaohe hurriedly stopped me. Madam, before the young master left the capital, he repeatedly instructed you to rest and wait to give birth, and to leave everything until he returns to deal with it. You're about to go into labor any day now. Your body really can't take any more trouble. I can't wait. If something happens to my concubine mother at this time, it's clearly aimed at me. If I don't go, they'll take her life. Yes, this servant will go and call for people at once. Seeing how resolute I looked, Xiaohe didn't dare persuade me any further. Leading the guards and servants from the general's residence, I stormed into the Liu residence with great force, ignoring all attempts to stop me, and headed straight for the inner courtyard to demand the person. Wang Shi stood in front of me with a group of maids and matrons, her face livid. Liu Ruolan, what a display of power. A married daughter is like water splashed out. How dare you bring people back to your maiden home to search the estate? Where is my birth mother? I stared at her fixedly, enunciating each word. Hand her over right now. Liu Ruowei stood beside her stepmother, her resentful gaze viciously tearing at my stomach. A cruel smile curved her lips. That lowly wretch, she was fooling around with some man, disgracing the Liu family's name. My mother had her drowned in the family pond under the clan rules long ago. Slap, a sharp, ringing slap, carrying all my strength, struck hard across Liu Ruowei's smug, triumphant face. Liu Ruowei, Lady Wang, if anything should happen to my mother, no matter how minor or grave, I, Liu Ruolan, swear here and now that even if I have to risk my life and fall into the Avicii hell, I will drag you mother and daughter down with me and make you pay blood for blood. I can endure anything in this world, but if it touches my mother's life, I will not yield a single step. 7 Liu Ruowei clutched her face, fury blazing in her eyes. You bitch, you dare hit me, I'll fight you to the death. The moment she lunged at me, she was immediately seized by the arm and firmly restrained by the guards behind me. Ah, it hurts, let go. She cried out in pain and struggled. With a swish, I drew out my dagger and pressed it straight against her neck. Where is my mother? Hand her over. Ah, Liu Ruolan, have you lost your mind? You actually want to kill me? Liu Ruowei's voice turned shrill, filled with fear. My wrist moved slightly, and a thread of blood instantly seeped from her fair skin. Liu Ruowei was so frightened that her soul nearly flew out of her body. She screamed at her stepmother. Mother, quickly bring Aunt Lin out. Lady Wang's face turned ashen. She dared not gamble with her daughter's life, and through gritted teeth said, bring her over. Very soon, the concubine was dragged over. In just over a month, she, the once gentle and plump woman, had been tortured until her body was covered in wounds. The rage almost swallowed me whole. Setting up a private tribunal and abusing punishment unlawfully. I'm going to report this to the authorities. Lan girl. You mustn't. Grandmother hurried over with the support of a maid. Mrs. Wang caught your mother meeting a strange man in private with her own eyes. The fact that she has only been tortured and not yet drowned in the river is already us sparing your face. Don't worry, we'll only say she died of illness to the outside world and will never implicate you. After more than 10 years of walking on eggshells, it was only at this moment that I saw the coldness of these relatives so nakedly. My kind grandmother could so casually decide a human life. No, absolutely not. Grandmother, my mother is not that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding here. Where is that man? I want to interrogate him myself. Enough, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough already? Liu Ruolan, do not think you can act recklessly in the Liu family just because you have the backing of the general's residence. Here, I have the final say. My father came storming in, his official authority overwhelming. I swept a cold glance over this pack of beasts in human clothing. Father, today I will stake my life to seek justice. Liu Chongshan's brows were tightly knit. Must you make the Liu family lose all face? His tone softened slightly. Have you not always wanted to be recognized as the legitimate daughter? As long as you stop pursuing this matter, I will have you registered under your adoptive mother's name. Upon hearing this, the barely breathing concubine struggled to open her eyes. Her cracked lips trembled as she said, Lana, agree to him. The greatest regret of her life was that she had implicated me and made me a concubine-born daughter. All she ever wished for was for me to become a legitimate daughter. I shook my head. Mother, I don't care about being a legitimate daughter. I only want you to live well. Xiao He, go report this to the authorities. Seeing the situation turn unfavorable, Madame Wang immediately changed her tune. There's no need to alarm the authorities over such a small matter. Just take it that Lady Lin was wrongly accused. Grandmother and father instantly understood that they had been deceived by Lady Wang, but they feared even more that the matter would spiral out of control. Grandmother hurriedly persuaded me, Lan girl, your legal mother was confused and made a mistake. We will certainly compensate your birth mother. I knew full well that even if we reported it to the authorities, Lady Wang would ultimately still be able to push out a scapegoat. Since that was the case, it would be better to secure real benefits for mother looking at father. I said, fine, I can choose not to report this, but I have conditions: write a release letter for my mother as a concubine immediately, return her indenture, and give her the best positioned profitable shop. 8 Wang Shi and Liu Ruowei instinctively wanted to object, but when my cold gaze swept over them, they immediately fell silent. Liu Chongshan's face darkened. Liu Ruolan, don't go too far. Even if you are now the young madam of the general's residence, you are still my daughter. I have endured humiliation and borne heavy burdens to get to where I am today, all to protect the people I want to protect. I raised my eyes and met his gaze directly, with not a trace of cowardice left in them. Father, if you don't want the scandal of the legitimate wife framing a concubine and treating human life like nothing to spread throughout the capital, then agree to my conditions. Otherwise, we can meet in court at the Yamen. Sir, hurry and agree to her, Madame Wang urged in a shrill voice. More than anyone else, she feared bringing disgrace upon the family and being cast aside. As a result, Liu Chongshan's face turned livid. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, fine. After obtaining the letter of dismissal, the indenture contract, and the property deed, I immediately ordered someone to support my concubine mother and turned to leave. I had only taken a few steps when a sudden, stabbing pain shot through my abdomen. Seeing this, grandmother hurriedly shouted, go find a midwife and a doctor. Second miss is about to give birth. I gripped my stepmother's and Xiao his hands tightly. I can't give birth here. Take me back to the Liu family, grandmother said hastily. Lan girl, I was muddled about your stepmother's matter, but rest assured, I will definitely ensure the safety of both mother and child. Grandmother, Madame Wang deliberately harmed my mother right when I was about to give birth, just so I'd be frightened into a difficult labor and die with my baby. How could I dare give birth here? Mrs. Wang flatly denied it. Liu Ruolan, don't make reckless accusations without evidence. I never meant to harm your child. I no longer wanted to tangle with them, and said to Xiaohe, quickly, help me to the carriage. My body suddenly felt light, and I fell into a firm, warm embrace. Wife, I'll take you and the child home now. Lu Chunzhou's voice sounded above my head. Liu Ruowei's eyes lit up, and she cried out anxiously, Brother Chenju, I've finally come around. I'm willing to marry you now. As long as you divorce Liu Ruolan, you can marry me into the house. She was convinced that Lu Chenju would be overjoyed. Unfortunately, she had made things too simple. After nearly a year of living together day and night, Lu Chenju had long since grown used to my meticulous care. On top of that, I was pregnant with his child, so he found it even harder to let go. Lu Chenju did not stop walking, his voice cold. Liu Ruowei, the moment you denied our relationship in the Golden Hall that day, we were already over. Find a decent man and marry him. Don't disturb my life anymore. Liu Ruowei's beautiful eyes widened in anger. Lu Chenju, how dare you treat me like this? Fine, I'll marry some old widower right now and make you regret it for the rest of your life. Lu Chunzhou's steps halted. He was clearly hesitating. Cold sweat streamed down me as I tightened my grip on his lapel. Husband, I and the child can't hold on much longer. This time, Lu Chenju finally did not choose Liu Ruowei. He said to me gently, don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you and our child. He held me tightly and strode swiftly toward the carriage. The first childbirth was already difficult, and with the shock to the fetus, the delivery was extremely dangerous. I was nearly exhausted, but thinking of all the hardships along the way, I absolutely could not give up at last. A loud baby's cry announced victory because I had borne the Liu family's legitimate eldest grandson. My mother-in-law immediately handed over the authority of managing the household, and spent her days holding her grandson, unable to put him down. My life was thriving, while the Liu family was in utter chaos at the time. Liu Ruowei, acting willfully and recklessly, had actually married a widowed pig butcher in a fit of pique 9 at her son's 100-day banquet. Liu Ruowei stormed in covered in injuries, shouting at the guests filling the hall. The small portrait that fell out of Lu Chunzhou's pouch in the Golden Hall that day was mine. She staggered forward toward Lu Chenju. Brother Chenju, I know I was wrong. If there were a next time, I would definitely admit that the little portrait was mine. The person Liu Chenju loved was the bright and flamboyant Liu Ruowei, not the disheveled widow standing before him. He frowned and stepped back. Liu Ruowei, don't spout nonsense here. The little portrait in my pouch was clearly given to me by my wife, Ruolan. He ordered the servants. Someone, drag this crazy woman out. No, brother Chenju, you can't treat me like this. I won't leave. I want to be your wife. The crowd looked at Liu Ruowei as she was dragged away, their eyes filled with undisguised contempt. I was all too familiar with those looks. Back when I was merely an unfavored concubine-born daughter, they looked at me the same way, born to shine brilliantly. The legitimate daughter of a prominent family had finally squandered her excellent hand through reckless willfulness. Her birth mother, Madame Wang, was also implicated and repudiated. My grandmother and father tried to mend their relationship with me and would often send messages asking me to come home more often and visit. But the Liu residence was no longer my home. Where my mother was, that was home in the blink of an eye. 3 years had passed. Liu Chenju had become increasingly taciturn. I knew he could not bear to part with Liu Ruowei in his heart. He always drank himself into a stupor in the dead of night. I would only silently cover him with a blanket and never try to stop him. His body was his own. If he did not cherish it, what could I do? His health deteriorated very quickly. In his final moments, he gripped my hand tightly, calling out Ruowei again and again. I am neither heartbroken nor do I correct her. I know better than anyone. I do not love him, nor do I hate him, but I must thank him. If I had not managed to marry him by taking advantage of a good deal, how would I be the respected Mrs. Liu that everyone honors today now? The son I gave birth to is the legitimate heir, and I no longer have to tread carefully just to make a living under my legitimate mother's hand, and my mother, too. Everyone now addresses her as Boss Lin. From here on, life will be smooth sailing. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The women of our Meng family are blessed with great fortune, and marrying one can bring prosperity to her husband. My eldest sister, gentle and kind-hearted, married the dissolute heir of the Marquis of Huainan. My second sister, innocent and lively, married the fierce and tyrannical general of the cavalry. Everyone said their marriages were a perfect match, and my father took great pride in it. Only when it came to my turn did my father look troubled, for no other reason than that I am a venomous woman who drains others' fortune. If you marry me, I will live a good life. The women of our Meng family can see the fortune above others' heads, and even more so, they have the fate to bring prosperity to their husbands. My eldest sister is known far and wide for her gentle and virtuous nature, the envy of all the young ladies in the inner chambers. My second sister, innocent and lively, has had suitors practically wearing out the threshold of our home. Whenever my father asks about the aura of fortune above their heads, he can't help but beam with joy. Only when he looks at me does my father's face cloud over with worry. My eldest sister said that when I was born, my father was overjoyed to see I was a daughter and rushed to hold me. But who would have thought that after he held me, he inexplicably slipped on dog poop when he went out. A vase he had bought at great expense shattered all over the floor, and even when eating a meatball, he nearly choked to death on a bone. While the doctor was extracting the bone from my father's mouth, I giggled non-stop beside him. At an age when I hadn't even grown teeth, I stared fiercely at the top of his head and smacked my lips. At that moment, a chill ran down my father's spine, and he realized something was wrong. All these years, he had married into the Meng family, and everything had gone smoothly for him. When had he ever encountered such misfortune? It wasn't until my mother came out from the inner room, wiping away tears in her anxiety. What are we to do? How will Arao ever get married in the future? My mother, having been well versed in the virtues and disciplines for women since childhood, always regarded her husband as the guiding principle. If it weren't for the fact that the Meng family had few descendants and no male heirs in this generation, she would never have taken a son-in-law into the family. Even though my father married into the Meng family, he was the one managing almost all the affairs, big and small, of the household. Though I lack the title of family head, I already wield its authority. Thus, when she discovered I could absorb the fortune of men close to me. Her first concern was my future marriage. I knew in my heart she was genuinely thinking of me. Yet the truth has shown that having a husband does not necessarily mean having someone reliable. I was born from the deep affection between my father and my mother, but after my birth, my father took control of the Meng family's assets. The affection turned cold, and then to silence, all within just 5 short years later. My mother became bedridden with illness. My eldest sister had already been married off by my father to the heir of the Marquis of Huainan. And my father was busy planning a marriage for my second sister. Only I grew up freely, because my father dared not come before me even in the Meng household. He had to avoid me every day. On the day when the cavalry general Qi Yunzi came with his men to propose marriage, my second sister's eyes were brimming with tears. My mother, lying on her sickbed, held my hand and my second sister's, crying until she was a tearful mess, her voice hoarse as she called for my father. "Ailing, quickly call your father. The cavalry general is violent and cruel, having outlived several wives. You cannot marry him." Second sister, who always listened to mother the most, nodded, holding back her tears as she ran out. At that time, I was only 13 years old, watching as she coughed up blood, her face deathly pale. I stepped forward to pour her a glass of water and asked, "You know full well that all his current luck was given by you, so why did you still meet with him, if he lost his luck?" Would eldest sister and second sister still have such good marriages? My mother shook her head, her eyes burning with emotion. "After so many years as husband and wife, how could I shut him out? Arao, he is your father. Though his heart has been clouded by greed, he would never truly harm you." I looked at her with disappointment, and in the end, only 2 words escaped my lips: "Foolish woman." The Meng family's dwindling lineage is all due to this matter of altering fate, like a blessing, yet also like a curse. The women of the Meng family willingly went to their deaths for a love that was elusive and intangible, passed down through generations. The bloodline has dwindled to only my mother's branch. Grandmother took in a son-in-law, yet she only lived to be 40. She arranged for my mother to take in a son-in-law, but she never expected that her daughter would still be unable to escape the fate of the Meng family women. Second sister easily managed to bring my father over. I stood at the door, watching him. The calculation and smile in his eyes froze the moment he saw me. My father cleared his throat and slowly took a step back. "Arao, go back first. I have something to discuss with your mother. Usually, it's not even a question of whether my father is willing to see me, I just don't like seeing him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone years without a single meeting between father and daughter." But at this moment, I blinked my eyes and didn't move a muscle. "Want to go in?" My father nodded. I grinned, revealing a pair of small, pointed canines. "All right, go on in." My father, second sister watched me from below, silent and still. The innocence in her eyes vanished the day eldest sister married. Father's face was dark with hesitation, his steps faltering. Finally, gritting his teeth, he passed me by and went to mother's room. Listening from outside, it was nothing but sour talk. My husband has been so worried about the children's marriage prospects lately that his hair has turned white. In a few days, when spring warms up, the 2 of us can go for a spring outing together. The painting I made of you back then is still in the study, and you're as beautiful as ever. After chatting with my mother, he hurriedly ran outside. As I left, I took advantage of his distraction and tugged on his sleeve. Watching as the burning aura of his fortune diminished slightly, I relaxed my brow and hummed a little tune as I walked toward the front courtyard. Although my father had been avoiding me all these years, we were still bound by blood. Siphoning a bit of his luck wasn't difficult. I hid beneath the side window and poked a hole through it. Qi Yunzi had a long scar across his face, his gaze was sinister, and his sword seemed to still carry a faint bloodlust. I heard that he was wounded in one leg during battle and could no longer go to the front lines. My father, with great emotion, spoke of all the virtues my second sister possessed. Qi Yunzi merely listened, only setting down his cup when my father mentioned my second sister's unique trait. "My daughter was born with the ability to see the fortunes of others, and each one is destined to bring prosperity to her husband. If you marry a Ling general, you will surely return to the battlefield. However, Our Meng family cannot marry off our daughter in a hasty or careless manner. My father's eyes were filled with calculation, but a glint of shrewdness flashed in Qi Yunz's gaze. Agreed, before my father could finish speaking, Qi Yunzi cut him off. As long as this general can return to the battlefield, whatever you want, it shall be granted. My father waved his hand grandly, directly settling this marriage arrangement. I frowned deeply by the window. I clearly absorbed my father's luck. So how did this marriage still come to pass until I turned around and saw my second sister hiding nearby? Her face was flushed, and her eyes were sparkling. Seeing me, she seemed a bit flustered. Second sister pulled me aside, her face flushed as she said earnestly, "Arao, this marriage, I agreed to it willingly. Don't you go making trouble." I stared at my second sister in shock. Although she had been innocent and carefree since childhood, she was not an unreasonable person. Qi Yunzi had a notorious reputation, and there was even talk of him being a husband who brought misfortune to his wives. How could he be a good match? Just moments ago, she had been crying her heart out, tears and snot streaming down her face. I voiced the question in my heart, but my second sister quietly told me that my father had her stay here precisely to meet Qi Yunzi. Although he looks fierce, just now when I almost fell, he was the one who caught me. It seems he knows how to care for others. Arao, I've already made up my mind. Who I marry is all the same, isn't it? With my good fortune, he won't treat me poorly. I want to ask, what if you lose your fortune? Does he truly like you? Or does he like your fortune? But I didn't ask it out loud. I saw something in second sister's eyes. Like my mother, she was as if possessed by a demon, throwing herself into the flames like a moth, with no one able to stop her. On the day my second sister became engaged to Qi Yunzi, my mother passed away. My father wanted to suppress the news of her death, to avoid my second sister having to observe a 3-year mourning period. He wiped away his tears and reasoned with me. Your mother took a blow for me, and I hold her goodness in my heart, but what she wanted most in her daily life was to see you 3 sisters get married. As your father, I cannot let my own selfish desires keep your mother from resting in peace. He did not arrange a funeral for my mother, and my second sister cried for days. Qi Yunzi learned of this matter and said nothing, but sent someone to deliver the betrothal gifts. The meaning behind it was self-evident. Dressed in mourning white, I knocked on my second sister's door late at night. She was holding a bronze mirror, lost in thought, her mind seemingly elsewhere. Seeing me arrive, she wiped her reddened eyes and forced a smile. "Why have you come, Arao?" I asked her. "Do you still intend to marry?" Second sister suddenly grabbed my arm, her teeth chattering uncontrollably. Marry, I don't know, Arao, it's as if I've been possessed by a demon. How could I marry him? He didn't even care about my mother's death. How could he truly treat me well? Second sister cried and laughed, as if she had become a different person. But the next day, she wiped away her tears and still stepped into the bridal sedan. She avoided my gaze, yet spoke with determination. "Rao, I'll take this gamble just once." I didn't look at her again, but instead took my mother's body and buried her on the mountain. My father did not stop me. First, perhaps she didn't want to see me, and second, since my mother's death wasn't announced, it wouldn't hurt to erect a tombstone for her. After my second sister got married, I thought she would be as silent and unreachable as my eldest sister, but unexpectedly, within just half a year, the general's mansion sent back my second sister's body. I heard she was caught in an affair, and in her panic to escape, she accidentally fell into the water. By the time she was rescued, she had already stopped breathing. Qi Yunzi personally led the escort to return her body. From a distance, I saw my second sister. Her body was swollen from being soaked in water, yet the large and small knife wounds and scratches were still visible. My breath caught, and tears welled up in my eyes. Second sister, is this the perfect match you insisted on marrying? Qi Yunzi made no comment on my actions. He is a high and mighty general, while I am merely a merchant's daughter. How my second sister died is entirely up to the people of the general's mansion to decide. Your Meng family married a wanton woman to this general, so you ought to compensate me with another. My father was sweating profusely, stammering as he began to speak. The Meng family only has 2 daughters. Where could this old man find another daughter for the general? Even if my father had 10 times the courage, He wouldn't dare marry a venomous woman like me to Chi Yunza yet. I stepped out from behind him, took his arm, and smiled. Father, who said the Meng family only has 2 daughters. What, you don't want to send me off to a good life? My father looked at me incredulously. I smiled and whispered softly in his ear, Father, if you do not agree today, our entire Meng family will perish. My father's face turned ashen. Chi Yunza sat on his horse, impatient with our family affairs, and simply told my father to hand me over in 3 days before leaving with his men. In the end, my father seemed to accept his fate, gritting his teeth and agreeing, but he turned around and warned me with a cold expression. RRAO, you've had a special constitution since childhood. That Chi Yunza doesn't truly want to marry you either. When you get to the general's mansion, speak less, let him neglect you, live a quiet and obedient life, and don't bring shame to our Meng family. A woman's duty is to follow her husband. You must learn from your mother and your sisters. I sighed, reaching out to steady my father's arm. Feeling his body tremble, I drew a dagger from my sleeve, grabbed my father's hand, and forcefully drove the blade in. Blood spurted out, and my father let out a sharp cry of pain. I leaned close to my father, admiring his agonized expression, and spoke in a low voice, if it weren't for you, second sister wouldn't have died. Considering you're my father, I'll just take a little interest from you first. Father, you should be glad I'm about to marry into the general's manor. Otherwise, who do you think would be the one to die? My father stared at me in terror, cold sweat streaming down his forehead. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Meng Rao, I am your father. How could you treat me like this? I arranged the marriages for your eldest and second sisters. Wasn't it good enough for them to marry into noble families? She died because she was useless. I took out a handkerchief to wipe the blood from my hands, letting out a soft laugh at his words. Useless? If I kill you, would that mean father is useless too? My second sister, though foolish and dim-witted, yet if my father had not pushed her into the fire pit, how could she have ended up in such a state today? If we speak of cruelty, my father would claim the first place. I dare not even compete with him. Chi Yunza will soon come to marry me. If I find out you've said anything you shouldn't in front of him, why don't you go keep my second sister and my mother company? My father has just agreed to Chi Yunza. If he doesn't see me in 3 days, he will surely make my father pay. Besides, Chi Yunza has already seen my face, and it's too late to change someone else now. My father thinks he can control me just as he once controlled my mother and sisters, but he didn't realize that our roles had long since been reversed. Now, it is he who is begging me to marry Chi Yunza, to save his life and his wealth. My father calmed down and finally understood the crux of the matter. He looked at me with apprehension, perhaps even a trace of hatred in his eyes. But that's not important. I patted my father's head, glaring fiercely at the fortune above him. Prepare more dowry for me. I'll need plenty of money when I first marry into the general's mansion. My father was so angry he nearly fumed. I was watching as the doctor treated my father's hand. I don't know if it was my imagination, but my father always seemed to want to pull his hand back into his sleeve. The doctor grew a bit impatient. If you keep pulling it back, this hand might not be usable in the future. My father settled down. I let out a light chuckle. Suddenly, a weak woman's voice came from the doorway. I looked up and saw my elder sister, whom I hadn't seen in years. She was dressed in loose, plain clothes, her cheeks even somewhat sunken, thin and frail, yet her belly was unusually large, as if it were sucking the life out of her. The 2 maidservants following behind her, however, had slender waists and full hips, their eyes sparkling with charm. They seemed to be eating quite well. Elder sister's eyes lost their luster. She licked her parched lips and spoke with a mix of shock and uncertainty. I heard that linger. She's dead, I said calmly, looking at my elder sister. Elder sister froze, her eyes gradually reddening. I am 4 months pregnant, and I have returned late. Actually, when my second sister got married back then, I wrote a letter to my eldest sister. I hoped she would come back to persuade my second sister, and I could handle matters with my father. That letter received no reply. My father always said that once my elder sister married, she forgot she was a daughter of the Meng family. The Marquis of Huainan gave too much, so he only said such things at home. But I knew that my elder sister had always been the most gentle and respectful, handling everything perfectly, yet the mansions of noble families can devour a person. A woman like her, marrying into the Marquis of Huenen's household, would not have a good life. With her status as the eldest sister, she could not become a wife, perhaps a concubine, or perhaps a mistress. I grew impatient watching my father's mournful expression with my elder sister, so I pulled her away to my courtyard, remote and quiet. I liked it very much. When my eldest sister saw it, she showed a look of guilt. If you had been like me and Linga back then, you wouldn't have had to suffer all this. I looked at her deeply. Actually, I quite enjoy this kind of suffering. I told my eldest sister about what happened with my second sister, and that I would soon be marrying Chi Yunza. The eldest sister's hand faltered, and the cup shattered on the floor. She stared at me in shock, anger blazing in her eyes. How can sisters marry the same man? Has father gone mad? Besides, with your abilities, if Chi Yunza were to discover them, how could he ever tolerate you? I feel a bit sorry for the fragments on the ground. Looking earnestly into my elder sister's eyes, within them, there is worry, concern, and anger, but not a trace of calculation. Elder sister, you need not worry for me. I am willing to marry him. Chi Yunza owes my second sister a life, and he should repay it to me. Since childhood, I have been able to absorb the luck of others. My father often called me a jinx behind my back, and even the servants in the house found me unlucky. Only my mother and my two older sisters took care of me with great care. My mother often shed tears in secret for my father most of the time. I grew up under the care of my eldest and second sisters. They taught me poetry and essays, took me climbing trees and swimming, and joined in all the mischief together. If it weren't for these men, I would have lived a good life long ago. I don't want to harm anyone, so why won't they ever let me live in peace? I sighed deeply, my gaze falling on my elder sister's belly. She stiffened and fell silent. Elder sister could only stay for one day. That night, we lay on the same bed, talking for a long time, just like when we were children. 3 days later, Chi Yunza indeed came to marry me. However, it was not him in person, but one of his fierce generals. That man looked rough and wild, with a long scar on his face. Upon seeing me, he smiled strangely. The general said that Meng Ling is a wanton woman, and he will not come to fetch you himself. The wedding party around them whistled, immediately bursting into laughter. They blocked the sedan door, waiting on the side to see me make a fool of myself. I smiled, suddenly tearing off half of my bridal veil, and said unhurriedly, since the general does not truly wish to marry, Meng Rao will not be wed today. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of those around me changed dramatically. If they bully me, it will be my Meng family, Meng Rao, and my deceased second sister who will be humiliated. But if I don't marry, everyone will be laughing at Chi Yunza instead. The scarred man at the head quickly signaled a maid beside him to cover my head with the bridal veil. With a stern expression, he had me board the bridal sedan, a cold sneer curling at the corner of his mouth. When Meng Ling first married into this family, she too kept silent, fearing to tarnish her reputation. What decent woman behaves like you? Truly shameless. My steps faltered as I approached the bridal sedan. Which soldier gossips like an old village woman? Are you truly battle-hardened warriors, or just poor relatives of the general's household here to broaden your horizons? The man was furious and about to speak when my father's anxious voice came from the side. He slipped them some silver, and as he passed the sedan chair, he gritted his teeth, his tone a mix of helplessness and a hint of pleading. Just don't cause any trouble, marry him properly. I snorted coldly. Don't worry, once I'm done with them, I'll come back for you. My father's voice stiffened, and without even waiting for the wedding sedan to depart, he rushed into the mansion. Those people took the money and said nothing more. The drummers and gong players in front of the carriage had originally been listless, but my earlier display of reluctance to marry had stirred up discussion among the commoners, forcing them to put on a brave face and liven up the atmosphere again, fearing they might tarnish the reputation of the general's mansion. A small sedan chair was carried in through the main gate, and red candles burned brightly in the bridal chamber. I pulled off the veil from my head, my gaze sweeping across the room. This was where my second sister had once lived, until a series of hurried, Forceful footsteps interrupted my thoughts. I turned around to find the door wide open, and Chi Yunze, dressed in a wedding robe, was squinting as he sized me up. I, too, was sizing up Chi Yunze. He had previously injured one of his legs, but now it seemed to have fully healed. Chi Yunze's aura was abundant, and it even began to show faint traces of purple energy. He raised an eyebrow. What did you see? I wasn't surprised that he knew I could see the aura above his head after all. My second sister, that silly fool, probably revealed all her secrets not long after arriving at the general's mansion. I pretended to be curious and pointed at the top of his head. With great fortune, you are destined for great achievements, of course. That is, if you don't marry me. Chi Yunze didn't seem surprised at all, merely nodding perfunctorily before asking me, "Why did you marry into this family?" I asked in confusion. "Wasn't it you who wanted me to marry over?" Chi Yunze paused for a moment, then suddenly smiled, his eyes blazing with fierce ambition. "Meng Areo, far more interesting than your sister. If you behave a little more obediently and listen to me, I can ensure your safety and well-being for a lifetime," I responded softly in agreement. Chi Yunze turned and left the room. He did not say what he wanted me to do after marrying him, nor did he stay in my room. After my second sister died, rumors spread outside that she was a wanton woman who had secretly been with another man. Regarding Chi Yunze's marriage to me, it is only publicly stated that the Meng family had shown him kindness, and that the only one who wronged him was Meng Ling, with no blame extending to the rest of the family. Everyone says he is a man of both courage and strategy, deeply loyal to his emotions. Only I know that the scars on my second sister's body did not appear out of nowhere. Every time Chi Yunze mentions my second sister, there is only mockery and disgust in his eyes, but no hatred for betrayal. A man, once he gains fame and fortune, is willing to abandon his faithful wife on this day. Chi Yunze received an invitation from the Grand Princess and took me to her residence. I couldn't tell if it was just my imagination, but Chi Yunze seemed unusually irritable the entire way. Whenever the Grand Princess was mentioned, he would give me instructions. "No matter what happens later, don't make a fuss, just wait for me to come find you." This statement came out of nowhere, strange and unexpected. I raised an eyebrow and softly agreed. It wasn't until the princess's whip landed on me that I suddenly understood where the wounds on my second sister had come from. At banquets, men and women have always been seated separately, so Chi Yunze couldn't stay by my side every step of the way. When I was taken away by the princess's maid, not a single person at the banquet noticed. She ordered her servants to throw me into the bone-chilling river, pulling me back up only when I was on the brink of death. The princess was nearly 40 years old. Although she had maintained her appearance quite well, the fine lines at the corners of her eyes still betrayed her age. I heard she and her consort are a resentful couple, with countless male favorites and paramours in the mansion. It's just that it hasn't been brought to the public's attention. The emperor has always doted on this elder sister of his, turning a blind eye to it. I never expected that Chi Yunze was also one of her intimate companions. The princess's peculiar habit is truly strange. Kissing that scar, isn't it disgusting? Just as I was about to suffocate, the princess had me dragged up and lashed me several times with a whip. The pain made cold sweat pour down my forehead, and my gaze grew increasingly cold. She, however, smiled. "Are all women from humble families this resilient? It's truly strange. How could a man as heroic as Qi Lang like someone like this?" The princess murmured to herself, gazing at the whip in her hand, but in less than a moment, her expression turned vicious and ruthless, the whip in her hand whistling through the air with fierce momentum. Just as the whip was about to strike me, I quickly rolled over, firmly grasped the body of the whip, and gave it a sharp tug. The Grand Princess let out a startled cry and stumbled toward me. I sidestepped and gave her a hard kick squarely on the buttocks, sending her tumbling into the river. "You jump down too, and he'll like you, won't he?" The next moment, a figure swiftly leaped into the woods not far away. To avoid drawing attention, the princess had only brought 2 maids with her. They tried to restrain me. I pulled a dagger from my person, thought for a moment, then put it back, saying coldly, "Instead of grabbing me, you'd better think about how to save your mistress. After all, if she dies, You won't fare any better either." Upon hearing this, the maid quickly ran to the riverbank to check the commotion below. Not long after, Chi Yunze fished the princess out of the water. She clung tightly to the man beside her, occasionally nuzzling against Chi Yunze's chest. The princess's eyes burned with hatred, yet her voice was deliberately coquettish. "Lord Chi, if you hadn't come, I fear I would have been killed by your new bride. Am I not your person? Don't you feel any heartache for me?" I caught a flicker of disgust in Chi Yunze's eyes. My heart understood clearly, so before Chi Yunze could speak, I knelt on the ground, my back straight and rigid, my voice cold and stern. "Your Highness, please do not jest in such a manner. My husband is a general who defends our nation, not an entertainer from a Southern-style theater. Today, I have offended your Highness, and I, as his wife, am willing to bear the consequences alone. I only hope that your Highness will not act inappropriately and tarnish my husband's reputation." The Grand Princess, enraged, released Chi Yunze and slapped me hard across the face. "Who gave you the nerve? Guards, drag her away and turn her into a human swine." I bit my lip, my gaze filled with terror yet resolutely fixed on the princess, putting on a timely display of unwavering defiance, just as the maids were roughly dragging me to my feet. Chi Yunze spoke up. "Your Highness is of noble status. Why must you trouble my new bride?" The words "new bride" seemed to strike a nerve with the princess. Her gaze grew heavy, filled with resentment as she stared at Chi Yunze. "Originally, I should have been your new bride, just as I finally got rid of one. You've married another. Chi Lang, do you truly despise me so much? The one before died still calling your name. If you don't like me, I'll destroy everyone you care for." In an instant, my mind raced through several ways to kill her. Unfortunately, all of them would have drawn unwanted attention. Chi Yunze stiffly embraced the princess, his voice softening slightly. "Your Highness, do you not yet know what feelings I hold for you? This Meng family girl is of use to me. If this one dies, I won't be able to find a third." The princess's gaze shifted, and she tugged at Chi Yunze's lapel, leading him elsewhere. "Chi Lang, the night is deep, and you might catch a chill. Let's go change your clothes first." It wasn't until I returned to the general's mansion that Chi Yunze finally came back. I sent a letter to the shopkeeper of our family's store. Thanks to my eldest and second sisters, the Meng family had become a royal merchant over the years, with its own network of information. My father used to keep a tight grip on the household affairs, but as he grew old, he couldn't resist indulging in some pleasures before his passing, so those matters fell to me. Fortunately, I had little to do in my youth and spent my days delving into such affairs. I secretly recruited many shopkeepers to work for me. The eldest princess, named Junyanying, is the current emperor's own sister, yet her consort is but a common scholar. She is quite the romantic at heart, but unfortunately, a few years ago, during a quarrel with her consort, she accidentally fell into the hands of villains. Chi Yunze was ordered to search for her, and when he found her, the princess was disheveled and threw herself into his arms. I roughly understand now. This is a tale of a hero rescuing a beauty. It's a pity that while the lady has feelings, the gentleman has no such intentions. When Chi Yunze married my second sister, perhaps he also intended to use her as a shield, hoping to make the princess give up on him. It also made it easier for him to do other things. I also remember the anticipation and hope in my second sister's eyes before she got married. She used to love taking me to the mountains and fields to pick flowers no matter what. She should not have died at the hands of these two. When Chi Yunze appeared again, his expression was remarkably composed, even carrying a hint of gentleness. "Why did you speak up for me that day? Have we met before? You are very different from your second sister. She is ultimately too rigid and prone to breaking. I imagine she must have bullied you a lot at home, didn't she? Since you have entered the general's residence, you are now my person. From now on, you can have your say in everything here." A look of admiration appeared in my eyes, and my cheeks flushed slightly. I am the general's wife, so naturally, I should speak for the general. "Please do not overthink it, General." When the general came to ask for my second sister's hand in marriage, I was still very young and can no longer remember it clearly. After saying that, I turned around and stopped speaking. I simply continued making a new pair of shoes. Chi Yunze was extremely arrogant, yet also ruthless and cruel from having been on the battlefield. His reputation for being a wife killer might not be mere hearsay. Those wives were nothing more than the great families coveting his military power. He was never a fool. Some things, if laid out before him, would only make him more suspicious. Half-truths are just right. A man with great ambitions most enjoys the genuine admiration of a woman, especially when that woman can help him achieve great things. I patiently continued my movements, revealing a charming half of my face. Chi Yunze chuckled softly, and for the first time, he stayed overnight at my place, even spending half a month in my room. In the heat of passion, Chi Yunze called out my name. "Arao, give me a child." I paused for a moment before replying. "All right." Chi Yunze is destined to be a military star, his fortune carrying an aura of killing intent. Even though we are now husband and wife, there is little genuine affection between us. While I absorb his fortune, I cannot help but worry about being backlashed. What if we have a child? I have formed a bond with him, and his feelings for me run deeper, so his fortune should remain with me. Besides, the Grand Princess has been jumping around for far too long. It's time for me to send her down to keep my second sister company in the grave. That day, Chi Yunze came to see me again. "Rrao, how has my fortune been lately?" He always treats me like the village fortune teller, and I give him an accurate reply every day. In truth, I siphon a bit of his luck each day, but I take so little that it's hardly noticeable. I looked carefully at the top of his head and suddenly laughed. "Husband, is there something good about to happen to you lately? Why is your fortune so abundant?" Before Chi Yunze could speak, I couldn't help but frown and retch. The maids hurried to fetch the doctor. After taking my pulse, the doctor said I was pregnant. Chi Yunze looked at me in surprise and delight. He had been at war for years and had no children. This was his first. "Rrao, you truly are my lucky star." Unfortunately, he is likely to be disappointed. Just as Chi Yunze was gazing at me with deep affection, an angry voice came from the doorway. "Why does she have your child? Chi Lang, have you betrayed me?" The arrival of the Grand Princess was completely unexpected. Chi Yunze's expression changed abruptly. Clearly not expecting her to appear at this moment, I spoke softly. "Since your highness has come, there must be something important. Husband, please attend to your matters." First, after saying this, I deliberately ignored the jealousy and hidden pain on the princess's face, and without a hint of reluctance, I left with my maidservant. As for the sound of shattering cups and choked sobs behind me, I left them all behind without a second thought. Hate all you want. I imagine my second sister, before she died, hated them even more. I don't know what Chi Yunze and the princess said that day, but from the look of relief in his eyes, I knew he had no idea what a woman consumed by obsession was capable of. After becoming pregnant, Chi Yunze treated me even better every day. I would pick the right time to absorb the fortune from his head, then I would ask him, "Husband, has anything fortunate happened today?" However, this trick couldn't be used for too long without being exposed. Fortunately, it wasn't long before the princess couldn't hold back any longer and found a reason to summon me. She had her maidservant force me to drink an entire bowl of medicine before I could even react. Blood was already flowing profusely from below. "I'm carrying my husband's child, Your Highness. This will affect his important plans." The Grand Princess raised a cold eyebrow and sneered. "With someone like you, you think you're worthy of being Chi Lang's wife? Stop spouting nonsense here." Beat her. I forced myself to get up while crying. The maid hurriedly came to stop me. I pretended to stumble and lunge toward her, but in reality, I seized the perfect moment to strike a tricky palm strike at her waist. The maid's waist went limp, and I stumbled out of the room, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. It looked utterly miserable. As soon as Chi Yunze appeared before me, I lowered my head and cried out in a tearful voice, "Husband, I failed to protect our child." The child in the womb would have fed on the mother's fortune. That was a matter of great importance to you, husband. Chi Yunze's eyes were wide with fury, their rims turning red. The Grand Princess followed him out, and upon seeing Chi Yunze's expression, her face paled with panic. "Chi Lang, how could the child of such a lowly woman be worthy of being born? If you like, I can bear one for you." Before she could finish speaking, Chi Yunze had already slapped her across the face. The Grand Princess was sent flying by the blow. crashing into a nearby flower pot, and spat out a mouthful of blood. "You vile woman, if anything happens to my child, I'll make you pay with your life." Chi Yunza glared with eyes wide, as if he wanted to devour someone. The eldest princess's eyes flickered with fear. Only I lay weakly in Chi Yunza's arms. The child, of course, could not be saved after all. I never had children to begin with. Chi Yunza was as restless as an ant on a hot pan. Only he knew in his heart why he had married me back then. When my second sister was killed by the princess, his foot injury had healed, and he could afford not to care about these things. But now, with a faint purple aura lingering over his head, he must have secretly engaged in some shady dealings. How could any mistake be tolerated? I had just woken up from a good sleep and opened my eyes when I saw Chi Yunza's eyes filled with red veins, his lips trembling as he said to me, "Arao, our child is gone. It's all my fault for making you suffer so much. I will make her pay the price." He didn't mention it, but we all knew who this she referred to. "So, husband, how do you plan to punish her?" Chi Yunza paused for a moment. "After all, she is the eldest princess, under the emperor's protection. Now is not the right time to move against her. However, I have already arranged for people to intercept her if she ever comes to the general's residence again in the future." I sneered inwardly. On the surface, however, she bit her lip and silently shed tears. Chi Yunza comforted me for a while, but soon lost patience. He then tentatively asked me, "Arao, you said at the time that the child was draining your luck." I nodded. Chi Yunza frowned, his eager expression fading away. I pretended not to notice and added, "Now that the child is gone, the fortune has naturally returned to me. However, if I want to share it with others, it must be with someone I truly hold dear. Sharing it with my husband is no problem, though my body may grow somewhat weaker." A flicker of delight flashed in Chi Yunza's eyes, and he stammered out some words of concern for my well-being. I smiled dismissively. "Husband and wife are one. You are my husband, so of course I wouldn't mind sharing it with you. Genuine closeness is, in itself, a vague premise." In the days that followed, he focused on accompanying me, finding all sorts of ways to make me happy, and I gradually absorbed the fortune from him, along with the faint wisps of purple aura above his head. I reminded him not to let his emotions fluctuate or harbor any killing intent, as it could affect his luck. He tried to suppress it, even reciting Buddhist scriptures in his spare time. If others didn't believe in the concept of borrowing luck, that was one thing, but Chi Yunza had personally experienced it. Outsiders found him strange, yet he remained completely unaware. Thus, I absorbed his fortune even faster. My health has improved significantly, my appearance has become even more captivating, and my strength has grown considerably. As for Chi Yunza, it took only a month for him to go from being thin and frail to encountering constant misfortune whenever he stepped out. I was like a beast that had been starving for too long, and he was the plump, delicious fish on the chopping block. On ordinary days when there was nothing to do, I would keep him by my side. Although his luck was gradually fading, with me, a walking source of fortune by his side, he didn't end up too unlucky. If he encountered good fortune, I would say it was due to the effect of the luck I brought him. If misfortune struck, I would blame it on his own circumstances. As Chi Yunza spent his days with me, a genuine affection truly began to grow between us. Even his backer, Prince Duan, was casually revealed by him during idle chatter. If Prince Duan succeeds, I will have contributed to his rise, and being granted a title as a prince of a different surname wouldn't be a problem. I exclaimed in surprise. "My husband has over 100,000 troops. Why would you submit to someone else?" Chi Yunza shook his head and helplessly tapped my nose. "The Prince of Duan is wise and resourceful, fit for that position. I only know how to fight. Nothing else. My lady, tomorrow I must visit the Prince of Duan's residence. What do you think of my fortune?" I smiled faintly. "Very good." The next day, Chi Yunza left the estate. I watched as the grey and white hair on his head became more prominent, and a look of admiration appeared in his eyes. "Husband, come back soon. I'll be at home, waiting for you." Chi Yunza smiled, stood up, mounted his horse, and turned to leave. I leaned against the door, watching his figure fade into the distance. Only after Chi Yunze disappeared from my sight did I finally allow a smile to show. Everyone in the mansion said we were exceptionally affectionate, a harmonious couple. All my efforts had not been in vain. I leisurely returned to my courtyard. At noon, a maid knelt on the ground in a panic, crying out, "Madam, it's terrible. The general, he was startled by his horse, fell, hit his head, and died." Upon hearing this, I abruptly stood up, my eyes filled with disbelief. What happened to my husband? I lifted the hem of my plain-colored skirt and ran out all the way. Chi Yunze's body had already been carried back, and the generals under his command arrived one after another. Leading the group was the man who had come to fetch the bride that day. His eyes were slightly red, and upon seeing me, he gritted his teeth and lunged to strike me. "You witch, it must be you who brought misfortune upon your husband, who brought death to the general." Others quickly rushed over to pull him away. "Don't talk nonsense. The lady and the general are deeply in love. How could she be a husband killer?" After I married over, Chi Yunze and I treated each other with respect and affection, sharing deep love and tenderness. Everyone has seen it with their own eyes. Moreover, Chi Yunze has always told others that I am his lucky star, showing great fondness for me. I endured the grief and lifted the white cloth step by step. The moment I saw Chi Yunze's face, my heart leaped with joy, but I feigned being overwhelmed and fainted from crying. After Chi Yunze's death, I kept vigil for him for 3 days. Then I was summoned by the men of Prince Duan. When I heard about this matter, I felt no worry. It was only because I had drained Chi Yunze's fortune, so now that Prince Duan was seeking me out, it couldn't be anything bad. Dressed in mourning white, my face full of desolate sorrow, I took my people to Prince Duan's mansion. But it wasn't Prince Duan who met me, it was Princess Duan. I was somewhat taken aback, having only prepared myself to appear sorrowful. The princess consort of Duan wore a calm expression, her voice cold and stern. "Meng Areo, do you plead guilty?" The teacup suddenly fell, clattering loudly as it hit the table. I looked up in confusion. "I do not know of what crime I am accused. The cavalry general is skilled in horsemanship and archery. How could he fall from his horse so easily? He only saw you before leaving the estate. If it wasn't you, then who else could it be?" The princess consort of Duan spoke with certainty, but I saw a purple aura hovering above her head. After draining Chi Yunze dry, my abilities had advanced to a higher level. Now I can also see the fortune above women's heads, and different colors of fortune represent different kinds of luck. For example, before Chi Yunze died, there was a dark cloud of misfortune above his head. I paused for a moment and spoke helplessly. "Your Highness, please do not stab me in the heart with such words. The general is my husband. How could I possibly cause his death? I truly wish to grow old with him." The Duchess of Duan suddenly smiled. "You are a clever one," I thought to myself. The Duchess of Duan is quite a remarkable woman as well. I have heard that the Prince of Duan is resourceful and wise, but now it seems the Duchess is no less impressive. I made no attempt to conceal the probing tone in my words. The Duchess of Duan suddenly laughed, stepping down to affectionately take my hand. "I was merely testing you just now, dear sister. Please don't take offense. After all, we live each day with our heads hanging by our belts, so we can't help but be cautious. Don't be alarmed. It turns out I have some connection with your sister. I called you here today to tell you something. Your elder sister is pregnant with twins, and there may be a life-threatening risk during childbirth. The legitimate sister of the Duan princess is the wife of the Huainan Marquis's heir, and my elder sister is the Huainan Marquis's mistress. She is so concerned about my elder sister because her legitimate sister and the Huainan Marquis have had many arguments over my elder sister. The Marquis of Huainan naturally couldn't tell her why he was keeping my elder sister and had gotten her pregnant. He could only argue with her day after day. From the attitude of the Duan princess consort, I keenly sensed that her relationship with this legitimate younger sister was rather strained. My gaze shifted, and I smiled. "Your Highness has told me so much. What is it that you wish Meng Areo to do?" The Princess of Duan paused, sighed, and a look of regret appeared in her eyes. "Over these years, I have been paying attention to the happenings in the capital. Regarding General Chi's foot injury, I had the prince seek out a renowned physician, hoping to do him a favor, but even the divine doctor said his tendons and veins are severed. and that foot will be useless from now on. Yet, after your second sister married into the family, his leg miraculously healed. If there isn't something behind it, I absolutely refuse to believe it. And as for your eldest sister, though she was an outsider, that playboy young lord unexpectedly managed to complete several tasks assigned by His Majesty quite impressively, even earning a promotion. My worthless legitimate sister once said that the young lord, while drunk, accidentally let slip something about borrowing your eldest sister's luck. She mocked him as foolish, but I think otherwise. Duchess Duan's gaze settled on me. I raised an eyebrow, no longer pretending, and spoke in a low, measured tone, but I am different from them. The princess consort of Duan smiled even more deeply. Indeed, in just half a year of marriage into the general's household, you managed to have Qi Yunzi die in an accident. How could you possibly be the same as them? Even if you have no connection to the Meng family, I still wish to befriend you. Recently, my legitimate younger sister has made several attempts against your elder sister, and I have had people secretly intercept them each time. The Princess of Duan is eager to curry favor with me. This Princess of Duan is quite an interesting person, but I have no interest in making friends. Matters of exchanging benefits, when spoken to plainly, can wound one's pride. A gentleman values integrity, but a venomous woman has no such notion. I pondered for a moment, then finally nodded gratefully. What the princess consort has told me is very useful. If there is ever a place where Meng Rao can be of assistance, please do not hesitate to ask. Furthermore, while the princess consort has good fortune, she lacks the aura of a dragon. The face of the Duan princess consort changed dramatically. I calmly observed the shift in her expression. Women are often soft-hearted, and I still do not know this Duan princess consort well. Who knows if she might go out and gossip indiscriminately. Grasping a few of her weaknesses and sowing discord is the only way to muddy these waters. I have no one under my command to use, and when the time comes, I'll still need her to step in for my elder sister's affairs. The princess consort of Duan has given me my elder sister's residence. Her attitude was completely different from when I first arrived. She took my hand and gently said she could help me deal with her legitimate sister. She only knows how to vie for favor and stir up jealousy all day long. Keeping her around would only bring trouble. But, Arao, I hope you can stay in the royal residence and lend me a hand. I asked in return, what would your highness like me to assist with? The princess consort of Duan looked hesitant. I turned and walked away without a moment's hesitation. If your highness hasn't thought it through, then don't come looking for me. I don't involve myself in these trivial matters. You still have a chance to live, but if I do get involved, it will surely cost someone their life. I only want to live a good life, better than everyone else. I'd rather just absorb some luck and act like a tyrant when I have nothing to do. I won't do anything that risks my life. I made my way all the way to my elder sister's courtyard. She wept silently before the pomegranate tree in the courtyard, her aura faint and sparse overhead. Is he truly deceiving me? The child is about to be born. Why hasn't he come to see me? I sighed. Do not trouble yourself. Perhaps he is simply dead. My elder sister suddenly rose, but in her agitation, she stirred the womb and went into labor prematurely. I quickly took someone with me to find the midwife. As soon as I stepped out, I happened to run into the midwife who had come to buy pastries nearby. After bringing her back, I insisted on staying in the delivery room to accompany my sister. The midwife had no choice but to deliver my elder sister's baby. She was in excruciating pain, writhing and screaming, all the while crying out the name of that nobleman's son. I frowned. Calling for him is no better than calling for me. My elder sister called my name again. Rao, will I die? My tone softened. No, elder sister. I'm here. You won't die. My eldest sister gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, both very adorable. Unfortunately, the boy passed away shortly after birth, leaving only a frail little daughter. Her health was already poor, so giving birth to the child was the best news possible. I had someone find a corpse and sent the boy's body to the Marquis of Huainan's residence. I sent my eldest sister and her newborn daughter onto the carriage. By the time she realized what had happened, they must have already reached Jiangnan by then. The guards I bought will keep a close watch on her, ensuring she lives well in Jiangnan and avoids contact with men in her daily life. In a few years, the lost fortune may slowly return. My elder sister's journey out of the capital is smooth and unobstructed. I have already understood whose hand is behind this. When I saw the Duanwang princess in the tea house, I was not at all surprised. It seemed she had already made up her mind. I sat down and repeated the question. From that day the Duanwang princess took a deep breath, her gaze fixed intently on me, her eyes sharp and piercing. Meng Rao, I want you to help me ascend to the throne and achieve great things. I burst into laughter, clapping my hands repeatedly. That's more like it. From the first time I saw you, I knew we were the same kind of people. I no longer pretend to be virtuous and gentle. She, too, no longer feigns warmth and grace. Instead, she analyzes the political situation at court with me. Princess Duan comes from the Langya Wang family. Her name is Wang Ling, and her grandfather is the head of the civil officials. She had been immersed in the treacherous intrigues of the court since childhood. After marrying Prince Duan, she followed her grandfather's instructions to help him achieve his ambitions. But Prince Duan was nothing more than a useless drunkard. His constant refrain was, "If it were up to this prince, I believe I could do better." Such a woman's perspective. Let this prince test you. Do you even know how to write a policy essay? At this, Wang Ling sneered and rolled her eyes. Test me, with him. I then mentioned that Qi Yunze had died. Wondering if her plans would change, Wang Ling simply smiled. There are many others in the army besides him. I understood immediately. We talked until late at night before she finally left. After parting ways, I first returned to the general's residence. Qi Yunze had no parents, and the general's mansion was left with only me. Occasionally, his subordinates would come to pay their respects to the outside world. I only claimed to stay in the mansion to pray for his blessings. In reality, once I returned to the mansion, I changed into my night clothes and left this place. The benefits of absorbing his fortune were not limited to those alone. I simply felt a sense of ease throughout my body. As light as a swallow, the body I had sent to the Marquis of Huinan's residence was thrown into the mass grave by the heir without even a glance, who only muttered that it was an ill omen. I made my way to the brothel, where the heir of the Marquis of Huinan was heavily drunk. The dancing girl seemed to have stepped out, leaving him alone in the room. Without hesitation, I climbed in through the window and plunged a dagger deep into his chest. The moment he opened his eyes and saw me, it was as if he had seen a ghost. Unfortunately, he didn't even manage to speak before he breathed his last. I watched as the abundant fortune above his head gradually turned into a deathly aura, and the original fortune was slowly flowing into my body. I was overjoyed. This wicked man, because he was my brother-in-law, his fortune after death actually came to me. Wonderful, truly wonderful. The princess consort of Duan, with great understanding, did not mention this matter, but instead used the Meng family's network as imperial merchants to lay out her plans. Due to our alliance, I promptly lent the person to her and assured her that I could give her the purple aura of Prince Duan, though it would require some time. The princess consort of Duan readily agreed. The heir of the Marquis of Huinan died in a brothel. This matter was quite scandalous to spread. The Marquis of Huinan's household only said that the heir had passed away from a sudden illness. After absorbing his fortune, I felt an extraordinary clarity throughout my body and immediately brought my father to the general's mansion overnight. Ever since Qi Yunze's death, my father had been holed up in his room all day. While others might not know what had happened, he could not have been unaware, watching as my people half invited, half escorted my father over. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Father, your daughter has found a good life, and now it's time to bring you to the estate to show my filial piety." My father tried to flee in terror. I didn't give him that chance, instead making him eat with me every day. It must be said that compared to Qi Yunze and the Marquis of Huinan's son, my father's luck was pitifully scarce. I didn't mind at all, accepting it all. After all, this was what my mother had exchanged with her life. When my father's luck was nearly exhausted, he fell gravely ill. I had him thrown into a desolate courtyard, left unattended, just as my mother had been back then with my father dealt with. General's wife Meng Rao entered the Thousand Buddha temple to mourn her late husband. The princess consort of Duan went to great lengths to find a substitute for me, and I, as the beauty presented by Jiangnan to enter the prince's mansion, became Lady Rao. I walked with lotus steps, no longer concealing my current appearance and snow-white skin, even going so far as to put in some effort, flying up to pour wine for Prince Duan. He was so startled that he overturned the table in front of him. Is this a celestial maiden? His eyes were filled with obsession as he personally welcomed me into his mansion, showering me with affection day after day, and so, day after day, I drew upon the fortune from the crown of his head. After all, the Prince of Duan was a member of the royal family, and his fortune far surpassed that of Qi Yunzi and the heir combined. After I entered the mansion, I told him that he was destined to face a calamity and that only by staying by my side could he ensure his safety. He was half convinced, but after I repeatedly demonstrated some so-called immortal arts for him, he completely believed in me. From then on, all matters in the Duan prince's household were decided by the Duan princess. Whenever the Duan prince wanted to intervene, I would flatter him and persuade him to let go. Over time, the Duan prince's fortune diminished considerably. That purple aura, I couldn't absorb too much of it. Instead, it faintly gathered above the head of the Duan princess, subtly containing the essence of dragon and elephant. I stayed at the Duan prince's residence for over half a year. When winter arrived, the Duan princess, in the name of the Duan prince, set various forces into motion. The Duan prince is the younger brother of the emperor. With the emperor having 8 sons, the throne would never fall to him by any means. But those 8 princes were either too young or simply incompetent, with numerous factions in the court. Wang Ling's grandfather looked around and found only the moderate Prince Duan worth supporting. When Wang Ling gave birth to a child, that child would become the next emperor. On the day of the coup, Wang Ling took off her long dress and put on armor. Her voice was faint, yet it carried an air of authority. My grandfather once said, "It's a pity I'm a woman. If I were a man, our Wang family might have had a chance to fight for it. But how can the merit of supporting a ruler compare to wielding power alone?" Meng Rao. I refused to spend my whole life sitting behind a curtain, devising strategies for someone else's empire. I cannot bear to spend my entire life beneath this man, letting him drain my worth and dictate my path. She slowly turned around and solemnly took my hand. "Rao, help me." I raised my gaze and solemnly placed my hand upon it. For a woman to ascend to the throne is, in itself, a fantasy beyond the reach of ordinary people. If my lady wishes to claim the imperial seat, she must be cold-hearted and devoid of sentiment. Those in power are ruthless and merciless. They treat their closest kin this way, and even more so with others. If this matter is to succeed, you must take action with your own hands. I naturally understood what Wang Ling meant: killing the crown prince, killing Qi Yunzi, killing my father. I didn't even blink an eye at any of them. They were my enemies, and those who stand in my way naturally deserve to die. But if it were the Prince of Duan, if it were the Wang family, this is the path Wang Ling has chosen for herself, not the one I wish to take. I told her long ago that I want to live a good life, not one where I carry my head on my belt. Her position is too high and too distant. If I can avenge her enemies for her today, tomorrow I may become someone she fears. Moreover, having already reached that position, how could one harbor any illusions of luck and act timidly? Wang Ling is a smart person. I won't take on this business. She was taken aback for a moment, then a look of understanding dawned on her face. I presented the sword, knelt down, and declared loudly, "I beseech your majesty to ascend the throne." Wang Ling hesitated no longer, and with the sword in hand, she rode off on her horse. Wang Ling's victory was assured, and I did not follow her. I only heard that Prince Duan was half dead with rage. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. When Wang Ling's sword pierced through his chest, he still couldn't believe it. Instead, searching everywhere for the adulterer, it was said that he broke down and shouted, "For whom did you kill this prince?" Wang Ling smiled gently. "I am for myself, your highness. The die is cast, and you should die." The Wang family called her a venomous snake and a poisonous woman. Wang Ling accepted it all, but instead of harming them, she sent them back to their ancestral home in Langya. Watching as my enemies have nearly all perished, only the former dynasty's princess managed to escape the palace with her entourage. I intercepted her outside the capital. When she saw me, she was still shaken and cursed me fiercely. "How can you be here? You caused Qi Lang's death, do you intend to kill me as well? I scoffed, and with a few swift strokes of my sword, I dispatched the guards behind her. Then, lash by lash, I whipped her before ordering her to be thrown into the river to drown. The princess screamed in terror, but soon fell silent. I gazed at her deeply and let out a sigh. Second sister, don't let her bully you down there. After a moment's thought, I added, if she does bully you, I'll chase her all the way to the Yellow Springs and avenge you. I had done all I needed to do. Wang Ling overcame all opposition and became the empress. The Wang family was forced to tie themselves to her ship. She summoned me to the palace overnight, wanting to make me the female prime minister. I refused her. I only know how to kill. I have no idea how to be a female prime minister. Wang Ling was at a loss. Logically speaking, I too have a share in the merit of aiding the dragon's rise. She asked me what reward I desired. I thought it over. How about making me a princess? Grant me a good fief, endless gold and silver, and let me enjoy a lifetime of wealth and prosperity. Wang Ling agreed with great enthusiasm. I then sent someone to Jiangnan to bring my elder sister and that girl to my fiefdom. From now on, in this lifetime, it is only right that we live a good life. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.